Good evening, Valeriy Viktorovich.
Good evening.
Good evening, dear viewers, listeners, and guests in the studio. Today is March 2nd, 2020. COVID-19 walks around the world, drives mass media mad, and answers visitors of our website. The question about coronavirus is the most popular. Here is the question from Dmitry. 42 people also voted for it. In the previous sessions of question-answer, you briefly explained that all commotion around coronavirus was nothing more than a deception maneuver for building up China as a new power concentration center. But considering recent news and logical reasoning, one may come to the conclusion that coronavirus also should cause substantial damage to both Europe's economy and all other countries that have close economic connections with Europe. In your opinion, is it true? Or is it just collateral damage which shouldn't cause any serious consequences?
No, it is a little wrong, or completely wrong. First of all, I never said that China should become a power concentration center. What I was saying was that China should become a governance concentration center, and all events are certainly taking place within the framework of that process. Regarding material losses, the damages are pre-planned. Look what is happening right now. Mass hysteria worldwide. Each country has to report at least one illness case. One sick person must be found somewhere. If Russia has one case, that is not enough. All right, one is not enough, here you are, there is a second case. General rules of the game are such that Russia has to take part in it. And while people are busy with this hysteria, reformatting of the whole world with the underlying goal of creating two governance concentration centers, China and Iran, is taking place. The Euro-Atlantic Center of Governance Concentration, Great Britain and the United States, is being transferred to China. The Euro-Asian Center of Governance Concentration, Europe, needs to be transferred to Iran. The transfer of the Governance Concentration Center to China is more or less successful. But the transfer to Iran is very, very problematic. And the escalation that is taking place in Turkey right now doesn't help either. Regarding China, under the cover of discussions, this coronavirus is so strong, we need protection, otherwise the huge complex of tasks is being solved. In particular, what is happening worldwide? It was announced that the richest people in the world lost billions, hundreds of billions of dollars. It was regarding the richest ones, but there are also other players in the world economy. That means some processes are taking place, and those processes need to be analyzed. Who suffers the biggest losses? For example, the biggest financial hit took Elon Musk with his projects. But we know that his projects are hoax projects, which have no real content. It is a show. No one mentions Hyperloop anymore. No one remembers many other his projects. They removed the money. This money stabilized the economy worldwide, but is still present. Now, this huge amount of money needs to be eliminated from the economy. Hoax projects of Elon Musk withdraw inflationary money mass from the economy into an inflationary bubble. The next step to relieve the pressure of the inflationary bubble, money just disappears. The whole world was shocked in 2012. At first, it was a small scandal around Deutsche Bank, but as a result, it became clear that 9 biggest banks in the world held derivatives that were worth more than the real economy of the whole world. A derivative is a financial tool that derives from a real product. In other words, there is a real business, but a virtual product that is being issued based on that business costs more than the business itself. Later, additional papers are being emitted one after another, and as a result of that chain, a colossal inflationary bubble was created. This inflationary bubble lifts off excess pressure from the world's economy, but this bubble must be regularly relieved. How to do it? All kinds of financial crises and other events have been invented exactly for that. In the given situation, the whole maneuver with coronavirus is a very effective measure for relieving that inflationary bubble. When it is nobody's fault, a management company is not guilty. It just happened that way. This coronavirus blanketed the whole world. Thank God that we lost only money and everybody is alive. For example, what claims can be made against Elon Musk? Well, he couldn't pay out any dividends, but the inflationary pressure from the world's economy is relieved. What claims can be made against the same Donald Trump, who failed to raise the economy to the promised functional level? Well, the coronavirus outbreak interfered, and here is a disruption of the economy. There is a huge number of such stabilization episodes worldwide, and every episode is relieving this inflationary bubble, canceling derivatives, cutting down this immensely swelled capitalization. The real business asset has one cost, but because we appraise future profit, the capitalization becomes inflated. Therefore, when people speak about losses, they are pre-planned. They are necessary to stabilize the world economic system. Otherwise, it may collapse under the pressure of the inflationary bubble. The bubble will burst and everything will be destroyed. It must be prevented, so everything needs to be done with accuracy to simplify everything. Next, this coronavirus has a very positive effect on China. First of all, it is ecology. Everybody knows that China has very bad ecology, but China needs to transform into a governance concentration center. Suddenly, here comes the news. During this coronavirus saga, when the polluting industry was put on hold, ecology sharply improved. Some may say, well, it is a temporary break in pollution. It is a temporary improvement. When coronavirus is gone, the industry will start working again. The economy will start working again, indeed, but on what conditions? It is easy. In the beginning of the coronavirus saga, some were saying that it was fake. I said right away that it was absolutely necessary to have whatever small but a real case of infection. It must be something new to scare people. Bird flu won't scare anymore. Swine flu won't scare either, even though thousands are dying from it. This is not important. Something new is needed. It must be a real, new infection, so that scientists and physicians could discuss it, and politicians too. It must be a new thing. And I said back then, it needs to be done to rebuild China's economy and deal with small business. Some assumed that I meant the travel industry, sales business. That is not what I meant. even if it was AliExpress. Absolutely not. It is a battlefield grass, and it will grow again. I'm talking about other quote-unquote small businesses like Toyota or Honda. That level of small businesses. They are small in comparison with transnational companies of a global significance level. What happened in China? China needed economic growth, and multiple players entered China. Different quote-unquote small companies entered. I repeat, I mean the level of Toyota. So they entered, they developed the Chinese economy, but that produced the balance of interests and balance of powers issues. On one hand, there are interests of China as envisaged by the Chinese leadership, expressed in the politics conducted by the state government. On the other hand, there are commercial interests of those players who build and developed the Chinese economy, and hence their influence on governance processes inside China. So what happened as a result of coronavirus? Well, it is a natural disaster. The global elite can sustain any financial losses. They are written off at the expense of an inflationary bubble. But small businesses like Toyota or Honda depend on the production line, and the halt of production is catastrophic for them. And now these businesses are receiving an offer. Let's negotiate the new conditions. Thus, as a result of this coronavirus, a homogenization of the internal Chinese industrial sector is taking place. In other words, all small players are being lined up and put under state control by various means. Some have to sell their plunged shares, others have to give up control of their business, some have to negotiate new means of cooperation under the threat that business won't be able to restart production, and it still has an obligation to pay workers. So it is a massive attack. Coronavirus itself allows China to homogenize its own industrial sector very seriously, and this process advances extremely fast. China completely brings the industrial sector to the position where it meets the state interest to the full, eliminating quote-unquote small businesses to prevent the influence of their private commercial interests on the state politics of the future governance concentration center. It is a very serious process. Moving on. Unnoticeably for everybody, just completely off the radar, China exchanged all cash money used in the economy. They said all paper currency needs to be disinfected. That is why we are introducing new currency. If it was done some other time, when coronavirus was not present, it could bring up questions. Why is it being done? For what purpose? Money is a unit of maximum consolidated information on product exchange. Even if the new currency has the same design, but serial numbers are different. Some old currency is left, some new is introduced, but as a result of this exchange process, all cash money flow, all, is under control now, and thus any outside influence becomes more transparent. The next aspect about outside influence. China has relations with different countries. Those countries also have relations with different countries. A huge amount of work is needed to rearrange the whole system of international relations between countries. Naturally, it sparks the interest of everyone. Why was it done? What is this limitation for? Why was this agreement signed? In other words, everything that you see in the press, in mass media, on TV, on the internet, all of it creates big curiosity. Now the mate in two moves is being performed. Certain limitations are being introduced not only in relations between China and other countries, but also between those countries themselves, depending on which the target configuration of those relations is needed. When the epidemic ends and the limitations are lifted, it will become apparent that there are new rules on relations, for example, new rules on travel exchange, conducting business, educational programs, cultural programs, and so on. This algorithm in two moves is being implemented now. Moreover, China is solving many internal tasks. There are certain drills taking place. The society is being structured. For example, the system of social points. This is a specific work with all the parameters: what, how, and why. This is governance over big masses of people. To what extent those masses are manageable, what and where needs to be corrected before China becomes a fully functional governance concentration center. This hysteria, this commotion about coronavirus is solving a huge number of issues, but all of them are directed to the reformation of international relations and deflation of the inflationary bubble, in such a way that there would be no grievances towards the leadership of those countries which promised something, like Trump did. Well, was it his fault? It is coronavirus. But a lot of people are dying, everybody is scared, anti-Chinese sentiments are growing. Thus, coronavirus is solving very serious governance tasks. Just imagine, how would it be possible to improve ecology in China by dealing with all these private subjects one by one? Each of them needs to be negotiated with, each of them has its commercial interest, each has a certain country backing it up. But now they have sharply cut everybody off, reformatted. And now China itself will decide how to prevent an industrial smog from reappearing on the Chinese territory. Many issues are being solved at once. Regarding coronavirus, many things can be said, but in principle, all of it is published, all of it is available to study. One just has to have the understanding of how complex social supersystems are governed, how countries and nations are governed, and then everything falls into place.